taking my baby from home. Train, train, coming on round the bend.
Sam Phillips was born in 1923 in a small agricultural community in the Muscle Shoals area of the Tennessee River.
My daddy's first job off of the farm was flagging. He wanted to be a part of nature, and the only consolation that he felt about being down here was this Tennessee River.
Sam was particularly close to his deaf-mute Aunt Emma. To communicate with her, he learned how to sign, but the cruelty of her exclusion from the world of sound was never lost on him.
And I was in love with sound and in love with radio.
This is WSM in Nashville, presenting our Grand Ole Opry.
Country music from the Grand Ole Opry and America's greatest folk entertainment. Time, neighbors.
Listen for this sound.
Radio took me away. It took my mind and it traveled for me.
Another source of inspiration came from Silas Payne, a black sharecropper who lived with the Phillips family after he had lost his sight.
He didn't try to teach me Sunday school. He just taught me how to live and how to be happy, and no matter what came along, even when you're feeling bad, you're feeling good. That church has been there longer than I'm old. To hear the sounds that came out of that little church, so small. So I stayed on that corner many, many Sundays listening to what was, I couldn't pass it by. That inspired me so that is nothing that moves the soul like music.
Sam was on his way to a religious revival in Dallas with some high school friends when he first saw Beale Street in Memphis, home of the blues.
Well, I'd heard about Beale Street all my life. Going down Beale Street at 5 o'clock in the morning, Broadway never looked that busy. You had somebody on practically every corner strumming a guitar or playing a lard can with a broomstick and a string. I had the perception it was kind of like being in a religious meeting, that you really are digging what that preacher is laying down, you know? I had that feeling when I was on Beale Street. This sounds like to me that this is something that the nation and the world possibly should hear.
By the mid-1940s, Phillips had a family and a radio career when an offer came for a job in the city he'd always dreamt about.
Memphis. It is situated on a bluff that is never flooded, and its early growth was due largely to its being a river port for shipping cotton.
Memphis represented something wonderful. Memphis was the world to him.
Sam got the kind of radio job he had always hoped for at station WREC, housed in the city's most luxurious hotel. His tasks included announcing, engineering, and supervising the nightly big band broadcast from the rooftop ballroom.
Hello, everybody, from the famous Skyway overlooking Old Man River, high atop Hotel Peabody in downtown Memphis, Tennessee, and to the facilities of WRBC, Columbia...
I was fascinated by doing what I was doing with the big bands, but I had heard the innate rhythms of Beale Street. I mean, the blues, the blues, the blues, the blues. And sometimes the blues are so good, it's hard to pick out what you like best of the same song. I just got to open me a little studio. I know I can build it with my own damn hands. I don't have any money, but I can build it with my own hands. And I can get by on less than anybody with my equipment because I can make it do more. I've got to have it.
Phillips found an empty storefront in a jumble of auto shops. It was located at 706 Union Avenue. In January of 1950, the Memphis Recording Service opened for business.
And when the neon lights went on and the doors were opened, it was just such a special place.
For the next year and a half, Sam split 20-hour days between the radio station and his new studio. His calling card read, "We record anything, anywhere, anytime." Riley King was a singing disc jockey on Memphis's WDIA, the first all-black radio station in the country. Sam recorded him under his radio name, B.B. King, and licensed the tracks to the West Coast RPM label.
But that was really something to see this guy's picture with the name B.B. King stapled on telegram posters and things all over Mississippi. So he said, well, man, this guy in Memphis has a studio where I record. And sure enough, man, Monday Sam Phillips called. He wanted to know how soon could we come up. I told him, anytime, right now.
Ike and his band got their idea for a song from a game they played on their drive up from Mississippi.
We would bet on which car would we see the most, you know, like maybe you would pick Ford. I know somebody in the car say, hey, well, I would bet what we would see the less of. Somebody said Oldsmobile.
Wow! Is that the Rocket 88?
Right again, Mr. Moon.
Oh, the going's great in the 88. It's a driver's dream come true.
Yeah, let me play something I haven't played in a long time. Actually, we got a tune called Rocket 88. Anything with rocket in it means that that's automatically moving.
You women have heard of jalopies, you've heard the noise they make, but let me introduce my new Rocket 88. Yes, it's straight, just one way. Everybody likes my Rocket 88. Baby, we'll ride in style, moving all along.
They told me about having problems coming up from Clarksdale.
We set the amplifier. The amplifier fell out of the trunk. That's what busted that tube in there.
Sam seized on the distorted tone of the broken amplifier, the kind of inspired accident that he valued both in music and in life.
Listen to the fun that's in that thing. I mean, there's everything going for that record that would appeal to younger people, and boy, was that what I was looking for.
Blow your horn, Raymond, blow.
With its unique combination of sound, feel, and subject matter, Rocket 88 is widely regarded as the first rock and roll record. Many more hits were to follow, but not before Sam Phillips would be forced by business pressures to do something he had sworn he would never do: start his own record label.
Welcome to the audition capital of the world. Before. And it's open.
1951. Memphis's new recording studio, its only studio, was one of the few places in the South dedicated to the recording of Negro talent.
I never had a desk. my desk was working, walking, behind that control board, up here on the phone, with distributors, disc jockeys, whatever was necessary.
Well, like raising a good cotton.
I wanted to get as much of an intimate sound as I could get, as much of a raw sound as I could get. I always felt like I had to leave enough liveness in a studio to where it sounded real, R-E-A-L.
Once his own record had hit, Ike Turner became Phillips' unofficial talent scout, scouring the Mississippi Delta for acts.
And I would go to the pool hall and ask them was there any singers around, and they would tell me who they knew, and then I would go to the church.
Ike Turner helped lead Sam to a blues singer with an inscrutable manner and a ferocious talent. The 41-year-old had never been recorded before. Born Chester Arthur Burnett. From his youth, he had gone by the name of Howlin' Wolf.
If you see me running, I'll come freaking by. You better run, boy. If you see me running, I'll come freaking by.
Hell, I wouldn't even let anybody but the Howlin' Wolf at that time maybe have a half a pint of wine, and that was about it. I knew if I didn't let him have it, he was going to have it anyway. A half pint of wine with a wolf as big as he was, I didn't really think that was much more than giving a baby a half a teaspoon of Castoria. I saw him sit down in that chair, and then that look came over his face, like I'm getting ready. And I said to myself, Lordy, I was entranced by the world's most distinctive voice.
When I come out the window, I won't have no time to lose. Honey, let's get high. We're gonna have a real good time. Honey, let's get high.
Almost every minute Sam wasn't at his radio job, he spent in the studio. The procession of talent included one-man band Joe Hill Lewis, harmonica virtuoso Walter Horton, and a 17-year-old amateur contest winner named Roscoe Gordon.
Down in Memphis, down in Memphis. Sam, you know, he coined the phrase, said nobody gonna play your music. Said, and I don't know what it is. Said, it's not the blues, it's not pop, it's not rock. So we're gonna call it Roscoe's Rhythm. That's what he called it, Roscoe's Rhythm.
People, he owned his job. He knew he was recording, black people, and they knew he had a recording studio, and they would say, well, Sam, you smell okay tonight, so I guess you hadn't been, recording any of those niggers. And that was, like, real scary to me.
That kind of blatant racism and the pressure of holding down two jobs took its toll.
You know, he just kept his mind full all the time, and it was hard for him to sleep. He said he couldn't turn his mind off at night.
And when it got so much that I couldn't handle it all, and I did have really a nervous breakdown, I'm just what it was in the middle of '51. It was the second one I'd had. Sheer exhaustion.
Phillips was hospitalized for several weeks, receiving 8 electroshock treatments.
But when it came that I had to give up that job that I'd worked all my life to get, or close down the little Memphis recording service, I had to make a choice.
The choice was clear. Sam threw himself into his work at the Memphis recording service. His only helper was fellow WREC announcer Marion Keisker.
In those days, the Memphis recording service was open to the public for anyone to come in and make a record of any kind at $3 one side, $4 two sides.
She was kind of like an old maid school teacher. Very firm and very businesslike. She was madly in love with him.
For years, independent record labels had stolen each other's acts, and it was not unheard of for an artist to record the same song for two different companies. As a studio owner without his own label, Phillips sold most of his recordings to RPM Records, but in 1951 he switched allegiance to the Chess label.
But I tell you why I recorded for two different labels. I didn't know any better. The only thing I know is they pay me to do it, so that's all the money I received already. I'm only going to get the front money, so anyway, so I was recording for anybody. It didn't make no difference.
And as soon as we would cut that song for Leonard Chess, as soon as he leave, the Harry brothers would come in and we would give them another $25 and we would cut the same song and put it out. You know, we didn't care anything about contracts in those days, you know.
When Roscoe Gordon's Booted became a hit for both labels, a lawsuit ensued. In the aftermath of the dispute, Howlin' Wolf moved to Chicago and Chess Records. Roscoe Gordon went to RPM, and Sam Phillips started his own label.
I think he was looking for the person that nobody heard, looking for the person that nobody could hear, looking for the poor people that didn't have an opportunity to be heard. I mean, he was looking for those kind of people, and I think he really thought in his vision that they could make a difference.
He never recorded for Sun anyone who had ever recorded on any other label. And the secret of it was to get the people so relaxed and so spontaneous that they would do what they really felt.
We'd get in there maybe 10 or 11 o'clock during the day. Sometimes we'd stay in there basically all night, 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning.
He coined the phrase, do not try to make a hit record. See, you cannot make a hit record, but you can make a good record.
He gets things out of you that you don't know you've got, and that's the real deal.
The thing that they would sing on the front porch of their house was captured on Sun.
And that's the producer's job, is to get that out of them. And Sam is great at it.
For all of Sam's confidence, Sun Records had a rocky start. For a year and a half, he struggled without a hit on his own label. Then he found just what he was looking for.
It was all a black stable, and I found out about it, and I went. But he hadn't had a big record until I did Bearcat.
You ain't nothing but a bearcat. Been scratching at my door. You ain't nothing but a bearcat.
Sam conceived the song as the male answer to Big Mama Thornton's current hit, Hound Dog.
And that started the ball rolling for Sam Phillips.
The song reached number 3 on the rhythm and blues charts and led to a lawsuit for borrowing too heavily from its source. But it marked a beginning for Sun and for Thomas, a personality on WDIA known as the mother station of the Negroes. In an era of such strict social division that even the airwaves were segregated, WDIA was the voice of the black community during the daylight hours. But when it signed off the air at night, a different voice took over.
Oh, yes, sir, good people. So Phillips, let's bring the hottest cotton-picking thing in the country. Red Hot Blue, coming through WHBQ and Hotel Chisco on the magazine floor. It could right there. Oh, yes, sir, good people, the hottest thing in the country.
Dewey Phillips' nightly radio show unified Memphis, black and white, in a way that no formal institution could. Although unrelated to Sam Phillips, Dewey was a kindred soul.
He and I were brothers in the same belief of what music could do with, for, and to people.
And tell them Phillips sent you down there from Red Hot and Blue. Baby, I'm flat through with you. No more dogging around, but Roscoe Gordon.
WDIA signed off at sundown. So where did the blacks go to listen to their music?
But they were playing black music for black people. And the white radio stations were playing white music for white people. And Dewey called his audience good people. He would say, oh, good people. He was playing good music for good people. And it got across.
He was not a trained radio announcer, couldn't read a commercial. He had to ad-lib all of his spots. He was really rough on the control boards. They gave him his own control room because he would destroy a control room inside of 6 months, and they'd have to rebuild it.
Whoop, you're messing up.
We're in the Chisco Hotel. It happened right here in this hotel.
No, I wasn't
listen to you.
Ah, Pete Picker.
Right, this is Dewey's control room right up
That's
here.
right, buddy. Call Sam. No, I gotta call Sam in a minute, Dave.
Wasn't that one? It's not this one. Now, where in the hell is it?
Lordy, Lord, I'll tell you right now, friends, I'm as nervous as a cottage and frog on the freeway with his hopper busted. I'm in bad shape. I mean, we way uptown is about as far as you can get. I mean, at a flat giddy.
These were good studios. Really good.
This is where Dewey worked. These are not too bad.
Oh, yes, sir.
Here it is. Right here. Here it is, right here. He would sit right here, had a console table here. It sure was a good program.
Tennessee, and it's Friday night. Tomorrow's payday and birthday. That's a good deal. Yes, sir.
When he got off the air, there was something about Dewey that kind of left him a little bit because of the actual feeling of the spirituality that he put into his program.
Dewey's overwhelming success across all barriers of race and class signaled to Sam Phillips that the vision he had nurtured from childhood was at last within reach.
No, that's it. Yeah, that's it, Elvis.
And tell him Phillips sent you down there from real high.
In 1953, the Supreme Court decision declaring school segregation illegal was still a year away, and Memphis was almost 2 decades away from anything approaching integration. But Sun Records made its own political statement by crossing not only racial lines, but social barriers as well.
There is joy.
Johnny Bragg was serving a 99-year sentence on 6 counts of rape. He had been convicted 10 years earlier at the age of 17.
And I had a quartet called the Prisoners. We was #1 while we was here. I think this is it.
Where you go.
This is what had the bunks. A bunk on top, bunk on the bottom. They'd be fighting and going on, you know. That was long, I was a little bit old young boy, half crazy. I was looking at the rain, and I started singing. And somebody said, "Who in the hell is that singing that song? That's a good song. And it's raining like hell out there, you know, and that thing." And so that's how Walking in the Rain was born. Just walking in the rain, getting soaking wet, torturing my heart by trying to forget. Just walking in the rain. So long. I call myself singing. I'm not gonna say I was singing, I tried to sing. But everybody talking about how sweet my voice was and stuff like that. Because you got the voice. You can sing your way out of here. I said, yeah, I know. You know, ain't no way you can sing your way out of here. That's what I said to myself.
And they always stare at me.
Phillips persuaded Tennessee Governor Frank Clement and Warden James Edwards to allow 5 long-term prisoners to record with him.
The idea of doing this tied in so intellectually with what I was trying to do, and for something like this to come along, can you imagine how I must have thought I was dreaming?
The initial recording session was set for June 1st, 1953. At Sam's expense, the group was driven under armed guard to the Sun studio in Memphis.
As soon as I heard them sing, then the devastation came to me. Ooh, wow. I can't miss getting something extraordinary here.
Sam Phillips was a fine man. He wanted everything to be perfect, and which ain't nothing wrong with that. Ain't that right?
His determination to let people know that there's always hope.
Always had hope. Always had hope to getting out. You know why? I was Anderson. Knowing things have changed, somehow I can forget. And everybody, I used to sing it up in the cell here. People be hollering and clapping their hands, and somebody there would forget. Somebody said, "Why the hell did you shut up and get out of there, you
In 1967, Johnny Bragg was the last of the Prisonaires to get out for good. His brief moment in the spotlight was enough to ensure him a modest career.
People were on our side. God was on our side, and the people too.
I love perfect imperfection, and I really do, and that's not just some cute saying, that's a fact. I had a phone ring right in the middle of the best cut of a Junior Parker record. Guess what? It's on the market. You think I was going to throw that cut away for one of them good ones that didn't have a telephone ringing in the middle of it? No.
Business never got so good that Sam could give up his custom recording service where people paid to hear the sound of their own voice. One such individual was a recent high school graduate whose eye had most likely been caught by a newspaper article about the Prisonaires. He showed up in the summer of 1953, claiming he wanted to make a record for his mother's birthday.
If you find your sweetheart in the arms of a friend.
Basically, he had a beautiful voice. In fact, too beautiful, in my opinion, as to the course that I wanted to take with any white person.
Sam had told Marion many times that the only way to get the music to a broader audience was to find a white boy with a Negro sound, and more important, the Negro feel.
I asked him for his address and telephone number and where I could get in touch with him. And I wrote across it, Elvis Presley, good ballad singer, save.
Elvis stopped by the Sun studio frequently over the next 6 months and even recorded a second acetate in January. But it would be nearly a year before Sam called him back, and then not before he had met a soft-spoken guitarist named Scotty Moore.
We were sitting here in this restaurant drinking coffee. Marion, his secretary, was having coffee with us one day, and we were chit-chatting around this, and she asked Sam, said, well, what about the kid who was in here about a year ago that recorded the acetate for his mother's birthday?
A songwriter would send in a dub, and we'd talk about who do we have to do this, and I would always say, how about the boy with the sideburns, you know?
Well, my actual feeling about Elvis was from the beginning that it wasn't going to be easy to do what we wanted to do, and yet all of the ingredients were there.
At Sam's direction, Scotty arranged an informal studio audition for the following night with his bassist, Bill Black. They spent much of the evening going through snatches of various songs.
Sam was in the studio putting on a new tape or taking them off the tape machine or something, and the door was open. Elvis started just banging on his guitar, singing "That's All Right, Mama," and just beating a fire at his guitar, just letting off steam, nervous energy.
Well, that's all right, Mama. That's all right for you. That's all right, Mama. Just any way you do it, that's all right. That's all right. That's all right, Mama. Any way you do. Well, Mama,
Belief in something that's somewhat out of the ordinary. There is just no better place to explore than that. And that's what I had right in the palm of my hand.
that's all right, Mama.
came home and he announced to his family that he had just cut a hit record.
Dewey Phillips had played it the night before on his show, and he played it several times. And everybody in town was talking about it. It was just an instant smash in Memphis.
I said, you mean Elvis has got a record out? He said, yeah. He said, Sam brought it up last night. I played it 7 times. Man, he's got a smash.
We were after a black man who would translate to the white audience. And Sam had a bigger vision. He was looking for a white man. And of course, that's what Elvis did. He made them the gift of black music.
That was the time, and that was the place. I know that Elvis could not have walked into any other recording studio in the United States and have had that experience. It stands to me as absolutely the point at which our society was ready to change.
Well, that's different. That's a pop song now, isn't it, about it?
Blue moon, blue moon, blue moon, keep shining bright.
Elvis Presley had a turntable hit in Memphis with That's All Right Mama. But Sam Phillips needed a second side before he could put out an actual record. Sam worked with Elvis for several nights before they came up with an unorthodox approach to a bluegrass classic.
I said, blue moon of Kentucky, keep on shining. Shine on the one that's gone and left me blue.
The people that love Blue Moon of Kentucky by Bill Monroe, they were so shocked they had to listen to see what brutality is taking place.
He was recording this idea, which was like a country song on one side, physically like the record, a country song on one side, R&B jump song or race music, which is what it was, on the other side.
The University Park Cleaners were on North McLean in Memphis, Tennessee, and we rehearsed right here. We're upstairs, what used to be a fur department and a hat department. They took in furs and cleaned them and hats, which I was doing that when I came out of the Navy. I don't know what they had in here. The hat department was right over in that corner, back there. And we rehearsed right out here. As soon as Bill got off work, well, him and Elvis would come over, and then we'd practice in. We was working up our big 15-minute show.
Well, I heard the news. That's good to rockin' tonight. Well, I heard the news. That's good to rockin' tonight.
The trio made its official debut at Memphis's Overton Park Shell, supporting Louisiana Hayride star Slim Whitman. It had not been a month since they recorded That's All Right Mama.
And of course, Bill and I had no idea what he'd do. He might have fainted when we went out on stage first. We knew, had no idea.
The people there were there to see Slim Whitman. Elvis was what I would say mortified that there could be rejection.
He would raise up on his balls of his feet, and back then you had those great big breeches legs and all the men's pants. His legs would start wiggling like that. He was just actually keeping time what he was doing. And that's what got the girls started hollering at him. They thought he was doing a whole bunch of stuff.
Well, we're gonna rock. We're gonna rock. Let's rock.
It's like if everybody in the audience had had a camera and taken a picture at the same time, it would have been like he was posing for all of them. That's how controlled and together and cool it was, you know.
And I was out there, and I was listening, and all of a sudden I was conscious that I could hear somebody just really shrieking. And suddenly I became conscious it was me.
Something was going to change the culture. And it was Elvis that changed the culture, not the Beatles or anything else. It was Elvis that brought this gift.
It forced the listener to make a choice, simply to accept it or reject it, if nothing else. what followed that choice was freedom, because of course that's what follows a choice.
All our blues away.
Elvis continued to cut songs at Sun through mid-1955. In all, just 5 singles were released in a little over a year. They remain the foundation not just for Elvis Presley's reputation, but for the birth of rock and roll.
We're right, I'm left, she's a gone. You're right, I'm left all alone. Well, he tried to tell me so, but how was I to know?
Country jocks wouldn't thought it was R&B stuff, and R&B jocks thought it was just the opposite, thought it was country. And he never sounded black to me, though.
They talked about him terribly, and they treated him terribly, you know. But he stuck to what he felt. Now, a lot of people say he stole. I don't buy that. In all honesty, I really don't buy that. I think this music thing belongs to whoever feels it. Nobody could act like he acted and didn't enjoy what he was doing.
There were certain guardians of the culture came to New York in groups to persuade Billboard not to put Elvis Presley's music in the charts because this was the kind of music best described by a Southern expletive that we don't use in polite company.
Even with Elvis Presley on his roster, Phillips faced the hard realities of running an independent record company. The discrepancy between accounts payable and accounts receivable only grew. Phillips made a decision. For Sun Records to survive as an independent operation, he would have to focus on the flood of young, raw, white talent that was now flocking to his door.
Sam discarded all the black. Wasn't nobody black running. I don't think the wall in there was black. And he just discarded all of us. No more.
You can't blame Sam for that. I mean, here's a white boy that came along that sound like and act like a black guy. They wanted what black artists were doing. They wanted to see the wiggling and the trembling and shaking and what have you, but you didn't have another white artist that had nerve enough to do that. So Elvis did.
Sam Phillips' success with Elvis served as a magnet for aspiring hillbilly singers. Like the black artists before them, almost everyone had grown up picking cotton and attending a Pentecostal church. Among the first to arrive at Sun's doorstep was a 22-year-old one-time sharecropper from Jackson, Tennessee.
When you're all alone and blue, and the world looks down on you, turn around, I'll be following you.
There's a 1954 Coupe de Ville Cadillac. A man got out dressed just like the car. I thought to myself, that's either that Presley boy or that's the man that owns this place. I said, "You Mrs. Phillips?" He said, "Yes." I said, "My name's Carl Perkins, and that's my brother sitting there in the car, and we come down to pick for you." He said, "It ain't that time." I said, "Mr. Phillips, please, just one song. Will you?" I guess I said it just that hurt. He said, "Well, it better be good."
Soon to follow was a 23-year-old Air Force veteran who wanted to make a gospel record.
Well, the Bible tells us about a man who ruled Babylon and all its land. Around the city he built a wall and declared that Babylon would never fall.
In Johnny Cash, I heard a type of depth in his gospel music that was different, with a different approach.
Elvis was the beacon that brought us all there, but we were out there just waiting for our chance and opportunity to do it the way we felt it. Elvis opened the door and Sam let us stay.
I said, "Why don't you go with that talent that you have for writing gospel music and see if you can't be a little bit of a sinner for a day or two, and let's see what it will sound like."
In both Perkins and Cash, Phillips saw something they didn't see in themselves, but he couldn't develop it just yet. Elvis was still his #1 concern, and he had a new business venture.
This is WHER Radio, America's first all-girl radio station, Memphis, Tennessee.
We went on the air in 1955. The nation's first all-girl station. You talking about a crazy man, you're looking at one. I mean...
It's 88 degrees in Memphis.
Sam had dreams of a radio station from the very earliest time.
Our slogan was WHER 1,000 beautiful watts.
Sam's original idea had been to start a 24-hour all-Negro station. When the FCC turned down his application, he came up with WHER.
It gave women a chance to be in radio and have broadcasting careers, probably women that never would have gotten started.
I wanted women on the air because I had heard Becky and she was so unusually good. I knew that other people could be equally that good given the opportunity.
With a complete weather forecast for Memphis and vicinity right after this.
By this time, promoter extraordinaire Colonel Tom Parker had taken over the management of Elvis Presley. He spread the rumor that Presley's Sun contract was for sale and even entered into negotiations without so much as a go-ahead from Sam Phillips.
I said, Tom, why are you putting out these tales? Well, I don't know about it, but are you interested in selling him? I said, enough money. Might be. It's okay with Elvis Presley.
Phillips named a sum that he thought RCA would never pay, $35,000. That was $10,000 more than Columbia had paid for pop star Frankie Lane just a few years before. To everyone's surprise, RCA agreed. Elvis's last single was his pinnacle at Sun, a cover of Little Junior Parker's Mystery Train.
Train I ride, 16 coaches long. Train I ride, 16 coaches long. While that long black train.
Sam Phillips was not about to look back. With this new capital, he could build his label and a burgeoning radio empire. He bought stock in Holiday Inn, an investment that would one day make him a rich man. Phillips could also promote the young artists on whom he'd bet his future.
I don't think Sam Phillips has any regrets of anything. And heck, he could sit around and go, man, I sold Elvis's contract for $35,000. Hey, what was wrong with me? Well, what was wrong with him? He was smart.
To my baby, but it never will again. No, not again.
Elvis was a star, but Sam was the superstar. Because he discovered all them stars. And led them around by the nose.
To my baby, but it never will again. Never will again.
And the story of Sam Phillips continues tomorrow at the same time here on the Biography Channel.
And I rocked over Spain. I rocked in Memphis, it was all the same. Till I rocked to Africa and I rolled off the ship and seen them natives doing an odd-looking skip. I said, that's all right, you go right ahead. I'm gonna you bang and stomp till I roll over dead.
50.